St. Lucia, this is Oak Mike, and we're now back to the fourth and final segment of our program. It's amazing how the time goes so quickly, but when the subjects are interesting, that's what really happens. But an area we need to focus on, St. Lucia, is the question of school books. I mean, it is just unbelievable what is going on now. I mean, I have about 5 or 6 young guys working with me, gardeners and helpers and so forth, and every one of them have had to just give them an advance of $2,000 for school books, which is $12,000. Number one, the two problems which exist is that the financial institutions are not lending any money, period. They're just not lending. So right now, it's the civil
society.
Yeah, civil society that are really carrying the brunt of that here. And a couple of us on St. Lucia, business people, because if somebody is working with me, I'm not going to stand idly by and see their children not being able to go to school because of school books. I have to help, okay? But then this is crazy because these are low-income people, and you know, I personally feel, I mean, everybody has their own way in life, that instead of spending millions of dollars on projects that are unsustainable, there are two ways of doing it. Either put a fund in where these people can borrow the money, and you have a good way of doing it to lend them to get, I know to get those books. I know that the government did give $500 towards, I think, that don't know what it is for, but whether it's to buy the books, I'm not sure. But I'm just telling you that the boys wanted $2,000 each, so I don't know, $500 will just be a dent on what the people require. But more importantly, a school master was telling me that he's familiar with what goes on, and he doesn't see why they have to be changing those books every year. If a page is changed, why don't they make a couple thousand pages and put it in the book, okay? Then, of course, another teacher said, well, the way to go is with laptops. Yes and no, because, you know, you have to repair those things and they can be stolen or disappeared or broken down. I think you need the books, but that's for the teachers to decide. What is your take on all of that?
Yeah, but there's also the perennial problem of some of these books costing more than they should. So if you ask some of the teachers and you do research, you will see that the books, there's a lot of dead space in the book. So the parents are paying for a lot of pages that they don't need for the curriculum. And that has got to be a problem where we look at very closely and address this problem, because it's costing too many parents quite a lot. I'm from a different age, so I'm going to go a little against you and support not the laptops but iPads.
Yes.
And I believe that this is the technological age.
Okay, I have no problem with that.
We've got to then put you know, necessary things in place so that if the computers are broken down, there are extra ones or whatever, so that we can. But I think that in itself will reduce. It will be cleaner education, less solid waste into the environment.
Okay.
And what it will also do is that it will be right into the kids' culture, their era, and their generation. I'm sure that your grandchildren are very, very good with the iPad.
Yes.
And I think that they would find it really fun learning with iPads.
There's no question
when
about
they went
it.
in, if they go into the classrooms and the chalkboards are all digitalized, big things where, you know, you're touching the screen and so on. I think that learning would be a lot more creative.
I think you have a point, Dominic.
And it would be a lot more cheaper.
Yeah.
It would create a different business for companies to sell.
But tell me something,
online.
Dominic. Would it take a long time for that transition, or?
No, we can get going right now. We can get going.
Okay.
Mr. Shasney, what we need is, all the ideas have been, a lot of what we're saying have been said, but what we need is a new attitude to getting things done. If we recognize an opportunity, we must move.
And you know, these iPads now, and you buy in large quantities, can be so inexpensive.
That is correct.
Well,
and you remove the duties off of them so
yeah.
that parents can reach them because they're an educational tool. But we can start with a pilot project. We can start with a few classrooms and see how they go.
Well,
and then
St.
test the
Lucia, I
results.
think I have to go along with what Dominic just said. I'm not as young
I think
as
your
him.
granddaughters would agree with me as well.
Yeah,
Your
I'm sure.
grandkids.
And I think that's the way to go.
Yes.
But in the interim, just for, in the interim period, we need to revisit the book situation, because I'm also hearing, I said hearing, I can't prove it at all, that somebody's making a lot of money on those books, okay? And I hope that's wrong, but I think government needs to revisit that, because there is much talk in St. Lucia about that. And I think they need to also, the thousands of children who go to school, based on the fact that there are so few jobs, how do you have to feed themselves, buy clothes for the children, and now books. So please, I beg the government to please have a conscience and look at that. Also, what Dominic was saying, and I'll let him elaborate on that, is that we have not addressed the sports side of tourism. What's your take on that?
Well, not just tourism, but as a country developmentally, I think that we should learn by now that building stadiums is not the key to sports development.
Yeah.
But what
I
the
hope
key
so.
is,
Yeah.
what the key is to have strong, sustainable programs that
Yes.
will develop those athletes. So we need a
For
high
instance, how
performance-
would that be done?
Well, we need academies that
Okay.
will train a lot of our young people
Okay.
who want to play sports professionally. Now, some of the big leagues in Europe,
Uh-huh.
where there's football, and some of the IPL league, where there's India now, people are making endless money doing it. I think that our
Yeah, I
local
just
boy-
saw what happened with the cricket in India. Nearly the whole country is
there
now.
you go.
Yeah.
And it's a lots of money, millions of dollars. Some of our local boy Darren Sami was just in a lucrative contract,
Uh-huh.
which is in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands over a
Wh-
six-week
where?
period in India. And I'm so proud
So
of
he's going to
Darren.
go there and give the lesson.
Well, he's been playing professionally in the
Okay.
IPL leagues, and that's just an example.
Right.
A number of our young athletes have been given scholarships as well, but we can do a lot more. We can
Look at a man like Usain Bolt, what he's doing. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and he's been an inspiration to other people.
There you go.
Yeah.
But then, for an island that is tourism dependent like ours,
Yes.
sportsmen
Yeah.
put you on the map like Bolt has put
Jamaica.
on the map.
It's
it
unbelievable.
brings interest that you
Yeah, recognition
didn't
to
have
the country.
all of a sudden. To
But
the
you know,
country.
you're so right about the stadiums. When I look at both stadiums, you know, it's heartbreaking, first of all, to watch a stadium in Vieux-Fort, because again, you're taking good money and throwing on bad money. Because, first of all, that stadium is in a salt zone. And I can tell you, I have a shopping center down in the south, and I know what I've had to go through for the last 18 years maintaining the shopping center. And this one here, I distinctly remember when George Odlum said he was going to put, everybody thought it was great. And I had a good relationship with George Odlum, and I told him straight, I said, George, you know something, I commend you for what you're doing, but you know that thing is not going to work, because the salt is going to destroy it. And I told him at the time, if China wanted to give you the singer, why don't they build a nice Oriental hotel instead? Because a good Oriental hotel would attract Oriental guests. I told him so, because there was the land next door, and I warned him about the salt. You know, right now, Dominic, that stadium down there, I think they may have to take off the whole roof. And I'm told that thing cost about anywhere between $2 to $5 million a year to maintain, whereas that money could have been going somewhere. And when you look, how many times have they ever used that stadium?
That is correct. That is the point as well.
Yeah.
And then you've got Boston.
Look at both ends. Same situation.
Yeah.
You had to spend a ton of money for a couple of cricket matches here.
Yes.
And you know, the thing is that when Sammy was captain, and a lot of people would go out, and now that Sammy is not there anymore, the attendance is rather poor in St. Lucia. So the people in the Cricket Association are not even wanting to hold too many more matches here. And you know, it's as you said, if you can train your people, you're far better off, because they could in turn bring a lot more to the table than all the spending of these stadiums that we're doing. I know some people may criticize us now for saying that they want a stadium, but again, you know, both stadiums are in the zones where they're seriously affected by salt, and we have to understand we just can't afford them. Yeah,
That is correct. We absolutely can't. I am in favor of one,
yeah,
but I'm not in favor of two.
two, yeah,
You can put them wherever you wish. They're both salt zones, but what has to happen is that you need to have money as well for the development of sportmen. You need to have monies for an elite athlete program. There are some countries in the Caribbean that are doing this, and that's why you see that they produce such great athletes, and they put them on the map, and they bring such pride to the country. And it's also a tool for the development of the economy. If you have a few guys that are earning 4 or 5 million a year, and you're able to tax them, then it also helps your revenue.
Now, Dominic, we don't have much time left on our program, but there's one important heading which we meant to discuss and it wasn't, and that is the Huronoro Airport. As you know, when the United Workers' Party were in power, they had a lockbox, and they had collected some 10 million US dollars. But then when the SLP administration came in, they said, well, how can you collect money on something you haven't started? I totally disagreed with them, because I kept on saying to them that when you want to build a house and you go to the bank for a loan, they ask you how much you're putting in. So you need a percentage. And they have stopped collecting that money. And had they been collecting that money, there would not have been 10 million US today. There probably been about 50 million US, 60 million US dollars into it. But it is, should I say, not amusing, but it is, I just noticed that a certain amount of work has started at the airport. I think they are in the process of creating an extra ramp for the planes to come in there, and there are some other works to go into progress. But tell me something. You have been, when last were you at Huronoro Airport?
I think I landed there maybe a week ago.
Yeah. The day you came in, was it one of those heavy days or was it a light day?
It was a heavy day. There were about, it was a Sunday.
Okay.
One of the heaviest days.
5,
so
6 aircraft on the ground.
Heavy, correct.
What was it like there?
Chaos, absolute chaos, as normal.
Tell me something though. Which is worse now, for incoming or the exiting?
That is a very, very good question. I would have to try and exit on a Sunday to make the comparison.
Well, I have exited, and the lines are so long. But, you know, I like to give credit where it's due. I think what SLATMA has done, which is great, prior to touching anything, they did, in fact, air condition the departure lounge. And that has made a significant difference. No question about it,
yes,
okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the decision you were talking about in terms of to take away the lockbox money,
yes,
it's a very, very real example of where politics trumps development, and where politics prevails over good sense.
Okay.
And it has cost this country so much. And that principle is so important for us to stay there for a while, because I think that has hurt our people a lot. That has really cost us. I think it has robbed us from being the best version of ourselves. And, you know, if you can raise this money, and if it doesn't affect your arrival numbers, but what had happened is, prior to the election, the Labour Party was in opposition, and I think they went so far in their criticism of it that they had no choice but to pull it back. But it really was
a very silly decision.
It was a silly decision.
Yeah.
And, you know, but this is why we've got to be so careful with our statements. Remember, it was said that VAT was oppressive to the poor while you're in opposition. It was said that we should give the civil servants the raise that they require, 14%. A promise is a promise. And when you get into government now, the reality steps in, and it's a different story, which is why, you know, I try to be careful in terms of my own criticism of any government and look at what it is. And I'll go on record as saying that I think public-private sector partnerships are good. And that principle is good because there's a lot more efficiency when the private sector run things.
Got you.
So I would support
what
that broader principle for public-private sector partnership.
Okay.
But what I will not support is the manner in which it is done. I have some questions as it relates to the framework of the whole arrangement. But the broader principle I do support.
But you know, we don't have much time left. We have to wrap up now. But on a parting note, what was heard, what I heard on the news by a UWP minister was that, you know, actually it was Mr. Guy, Honorable Guy Joseph, and he should be aware of what was going on because he was Minister for Communication. He said that the seaport actually loses money, and it's the airport carrying the whole burden of that ministry. And he's very concerned that when you go to the private PPP, okay, partnership program, what is going to happen, because right now, I think he said that they end up making $12 or $14 million a year, and he would like to see at least a minimum of $12 or $14 million in earnings being retained to maintain the loans that they have and whatever before they go in. So that's for another story, but unfortunately we've come to the end of our program, and this is Open Mic saying thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back next Sunday.